what's the big deal about data harmony anyway? When I first came here, I was not an information management person at all. I am a biologist by training, and I came from a research background. And I honestly did not care about your indexing problems. I didn't care. My main concern was if I wanted to look for a research article, how well could I look at a document and see whether this fit my needs. And one of the things that they told us when I was in academia was if you wanted to look at something from the humanities, here are these databases. But if you wanted to look at something from the hard sciences, go get the librarian. Because it was really hard to search through a science database and pull out what you needed. Because a lot of times what is available to a researcher is only the title or the abstract. And sometimes I don't need that. I don't care. I'm looking for what research methods they used or how they purified their protein. I don't care about what is in the title, and I don't care about what's in the abstract. And so there was no real good way for me to look at if that article was pertinent to my needs, other than to read it. And so the only way that I could get, I could look at an article and see if this was a good fit for my research was to actually read the whole article. But searching through the science databases was tedious, it was laborious, and like I said before, if I only had access to the title and the abstract, it really didn't do me any good. And there frequently, the only way to tell the article is to read it. And there were times when my institution did not have accession rights to an article or a journal that I needed. And there was a time when I had to design an experiment, and it took me 4 weeks, and I spent $300 of my own money to go look through these articles, and I ended up only having 2 usable articles. And so I represent your clients, I represent your customers. And so if your data is only as good to me as your subject metadata, and so that's where we come in, if I can get my slides straight. So data harmony allows the user to browse the book. Basically, when we tag your content with the subject metadata, it becomes more valuable for the researchers, for your clients that want to use that data. Because yes, author and the abstract and the title and the journal publisher, those are all important, and you guys do need that in order to classify and sort your data. But to the researcher, unless I know exactly what is in that article, it does me no good. And so in order for you guys to provide value to your clients, you need to have your data subject metadata correct. So with data harmony, the rule base allows the editors to assign context to full text and disambiguate terms. And she and I were having this discussion about sometimes especially when you're working with technical papers or hard science papers, and especially when your authors are non-native speakers of English, their syntax for their native language is not the same as English, and so it's not very, the rules that we would normally use to assign context to pick up your concepts are not going to be necessarily as efficient, but we can go in there with data harmony very, very easily and tag your subject metadata in your document, and we can auto-generate a rule base based on some sample items, but we can also very easily go in there and edit it and tweak it, which is something that she and I worked very closely on, and it's really, really quite easy to do that. But when I say easily edited, that's for an experienced editor. I do this all day, and so it's really, really easy for me to go in there and do it and spot what's wrong and tweak the rule so that it works the right way. But what I would have to do is, here's a sample of Maestro. We did a test M.A.I. And on this one, this is a medical record. I know you can't see anything of it, but what I ran in the test was a medical record. It was a sample medical record. There's no personal info. This is a fake patient. So there's no HIPAA violations here. But for this, the suggested terms that pop up, this is for actually for the Access Integrity project that you guys heard about this morning. And the suggested terms are, the codes right there are what our test terms are in this rule base. And there's a little line there. I know you can't see it, but then the term after it is the rule that triggers that term. And so what I would do in order to check to see if this is indexing correctly is I would run a full text through test M.A.I, and then I would look at the indexing results, which are this thing right there. And then I would compare the trigger words. I would look for these trigger words and compare it to the rule to make sure that this rule is hitting correctly the way I want it to. And then I would tweak it as necessary. Now, this is really easy for me because I do it all day, and it's really, really quick for me to spot. But we know that you guys have other things to do, and you're not on Maestro all day. And so we try and make it easier for you. So we did. We made it easier for you. This is one of the new upgrades to the new version of Data Harmony. We added a find feature right here. So when you do run your test M.A.I, you would type whatever, it works as a control F function on a word processor. So when you scroll through, it gets highlighted right here. And so as you keep on pressing find, it will advance so that you can see every word that triggers that word that you're looking for in the find. And you can really see and compare your full text and then go back into the rule and make sure that, does your rule need adjusting? Is there something that's interfering? Is there a reason why your rule is not indexing to this word? So, we really try and make the indexing and the customization of your indexing as easy for you as possible. But wait, there's more. So we've made it even easier for you to do this with the inline tagging. Yeah. With inline tagging, we make it even easier for you. So what is inline tagging? Now, I am not as familiar with the technical side of inline tagging. I'm coming to you from an editorial taxonomy standpoint, so you're going to have to ask Lamine or Margie or somebody else who knows more about the technical stuff. But this definition right here is from our documentation. So basically what inline tagging is that it finds the words that trigger the index search results, and it highlights it for you. And I'm not going to read that to you because my eyes are bad. But what it does is this allows the user to really, really have a browse the book experience. Because a lot of times when you're looking at your document, you want to be able to browse it and see if this is, why is this about biology? Is this something that I really need? Is it about zoology, or is it about plant genetics? Is this really pertinent to me? And there really is no effective way of doing that unless you can browse it. And you know, with now that we have digital documents, it's nice to be able to retrieve those when you need it, but your user needs to be able to see if this is pertinent to their needs. And so basically what we do is this output that we have, this is the M.A.I. suggested terms from the test M.A.I. Now, the first part of the term is your test term. And then there's the little line, and that number in parentheses, I know all of you know this, but this is just review. So the number in parentheses is how many times in your tested full text document, how many times that term got triggered. And then it will tell you afterwards which rule triggered that. So with the sustainable development, you got 3 hits, or you got 3 hits total, and you got 1 from the truncated develop rule, and then 1 from the longer text to match simple rule of sustainable development. So if you think that something should not be there, or if infrastructure should be higher on your list of returns, you can go back into those rules and check it and see how the rule is written, and see why this is not indexing the way you want it to, and then you can adjust it really, really quickly. But with inline tagging, we take this output and we turn it into a display format that your user will find more meaningful and easier to use. So in this example, this is a news article about oil. And it's like it's from a business article. And the user chose to have the tagged documents or the tagged words be highlighted in red. And then when you mouse over on these red terms, you come up with the Maestro terms that tell you which rules were triggered by that term. And that's why you got it returned. And then you have all the term names down here. This display is totally customizable for you. So you can have a mouse over of your Maestro terms. You can choose the color. You can choose the way that the output format is displayed. And in this implementation, this was a law, thus, and a dictionary. And so their inline tagging, I guess, terms, they're bold right here. They could have chosen a color, they could have chosen highlighted, whatever they wanted, but you can choose what you want. Theirs is bold, but when they go and they highlight, and when they mouse over those bolded terms, they have access to the dictionary term. And we can link your display and your mouse over, we can link that to whatever other display that you want, because we're Data Harmony Access Innovations and we roll like that. But you know, basically Margie will work with you, Margie and Jay will work with you and find out exactly what you want, exactly what you need, what type of output that you need, what is going to make it easier for your workflow or for your end user to access your data, and we can completely customize the display for you. And basically what this is your suggested terms. We just put it in whatever fancy format that you want. And so Maestro inline tagging is basically a web service. Here's some more technical stuff that I don't really understand. But basically, we link a web page, a web forum, to your Data Harmony THES project. And when somebody runs a, I don't want to say query because that's something different, but when they run a full text search on through the inline tagging, whatever web form you have, There's a web call that goes and it filters that through your data harmony thesaurus rule-based project. It gets the indexing terms, and it displays it in a format that you define and that is useful to you. And so the web service has two functions, so obviously we always want to like figure out set up your configuration with the test settings and have a way to test and debug. That's always important. And then you have the get terms API call. And as I said, it's totally customizable for you. Now, that earlier slide that I showed you where I ran test M.A.I. on a fake medical record, this is what it looks like when you have the inline tagging option. So they ran the it was the same medical record that we ran through test M.A.I. Now it's showing which words in this medical record are triggering those terms. And this is actually much easier for you guys to look at and to decipher than that test M.A.I. page, isn't it? This is much nicer to look at. It's pretty. So, and inline tagging is just a great way for you guys to maximize your thesaurus and your rule base, because it makes it meaningful for you and for your customer. And that's the end of my presentation. Margie, did I go over? No?
No, you're good.
So is there any questions?
So the number of terms that are tagged, they dependent upon how many terms you're indexing, your M.A.I. is set for.
Right, exactly. So if you set it for, like I think the standard is the top 10 or top 20 or so terms, those, you're not going to get a whole bunch of noise, because that is I wish I could make it go back. This is a direct reflection of the M.A.I. get suggested terms. The output right here is a direct reflection. It's an extension of your suggested terms. So if you wanted to like tighten it up so that you only get the top 3 index terms, that is what we'll show.
And have you had any, so this has to go back to Highwire or whomever your work is displayed on, right? So
You mean for the highlighting?
the inline tags.
Yeah, so if your documents were on Highwire, they would send them to the M.A.I., wherever that's located, and you could set it to also include inline tagging. So you'd get the descriptors, the keywords at the end. You'd also get the inline tagging in the full text of the document. And what we're doing is inserting using HTML code, and how they display that then is up to the presentation layer, which in your case would be on the Highwire side.
And the link, the extra links that you can provide in that tagged stuff can be a function of what is actually being tagged. So Gene can be going out to a Gene database, and it can
Well, and in your case in point, see these 3 tabs here. So here's the full text, and these are the terms returned. These are actually the ICD-9 codes. If we clicked the CPT, we'd show the CPT codes. And if we click HCPCS, we'd show the supplies, the HCPCS codes. And we could do the same thing for you. So this would be your concept codes for AACR. This would be your proteins and genes, and this would be your drugs, for example. I mean, it's just another way to do it. And we would feed them all to separate fields probably, but they'll all be tagged in the full text. And in the case of access integrity, we have not set a limit on the number of codes returned. And normally when we're in the rule building process, if we're very early in the process, we set the M.A.I. returns to unlimited, because we want to see all the garbage. But most publishers are going to use 7 to 10. We have some that use only 3 returned codes, which feels a little slim to me, given that they've got a big thesaurus. But for the most part, it's between 7 and 10 that people choose to display. And when they decide how many they want to show, then that governs how many actually show in the inline tagging. So if you set it to 7, then only those 7 would be hyperlinked. And in Highwire, you know how they do reference linking from inside? Every place they reference footnote. It's the same kinds of tags in that it's linking out to another place.
So if a term appears 10 times, it's pretty important we're going to do in that tag. Would that be highlighted 10 times in that little?
It would be highlighted every place it was called. So yes, it would be highlighted 10 times in the text.
But what's nice is that you can see your synonyms too. Because one thing that we were finding in the ASCE literature is that there were synonyms that we would not necessarily think of. And so, which means that sometimes your user would not necessarily think that that term is a synonym for something else. And it's nice for your user to be able to see, oh, when you see allergies, they're really talking about rhinitis or whatever.